All right, what's up, kids? We're back with another TagCast, and kind of, the theme of this entire game. We're back onto the Mishimas. So I'm your host, of course, Zhang, and my co-host, just so you know, he should be joining us here in a few minutes. He's running a little bit late, but that's okay. That gives us a little bit of a longer introduction to talk to our guest this time, which he was actually my guest for the T6 Kazuya podcast. You know him, you love him, and that's Cody. And I'm going to say Cody Vu. Vu, I'm going to add the Vu.
God.
I'm going to add it.
You're a dick.
So
that's cool. No regrets about my past. None that,
It's like what is this? Like Diddy, right? It used to be Puff Daddy.
Diddy.
Then it went to just P. I don't even know how exactly the progression. It's like P Diddy. Then Puff Diddy, Diddy. I don't know. But anyway.
You could call me the player formerly known as Vu. I don't know. Whatever you want to say. We go Prince Root if you want. I don't care.
So on the T6 podcast, we pretty much went through most of the introduction, but I guess I can just kind of ask generally, how's it been going since that T6 podcast? Anything new, exciting? Are you still in the same area? Yada yada yada.
If you want to talk about what's new and exciting with like Kazuya, we could talk about that all day long. But until we go there, if you just want to know about just me, I have since the last podcast moved to Florida. I moved there, let's see, about a year. It was in when did I move? Damn, June of 2011. I moved to Florida, and ever since then, I've been playing here. I've got a small local scene, a few up-and-coming players that I'm trying to, train up and get becoming really good. One of them was an IFL recently. Goes by Booty Thrill. Did pretty well. There's a few other players north and south of me in both Jacksonville and Miami. I moved down then, and they've helped me get a lot better since then. I don't really know where else to go with that, except I'm in Florida now, no longer Tennessee.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, I guess that's all we really need. What's that?
I'm probably be rambling quite a bit. I'll be rambling quite a bit because I'm really awake right now. I have no idea why I'm awake this late. So we can talk all night if you want, but hey. You have to ask me very specific questions, or you'll hear me run off on tangents. So.
Hey, that's cool. I'm good with it. I'm all about more content, So yeah, all I do is hit the record button, and then,
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So it looks like we're still waiting on John Akazama. So he'll jump in eventually. But I guess we can just you already mentioned talking about Kazuya all night long, so we might as well just go there. So with Kazuya, the only thing that I should I'm kind of a nerd, and I should have went back and listened to our other one because that's usually a good place to start the conversation is what's changed. But the one thing that stands out in my mind from when we did the T6 podcast or the T6 episode was that most people considered him the best Mishima in T6, but a lot of his I guess his pluses.
That was.
What's that?
I'd like to know who that was that considered him the best Mishima, because I don't know who in America really said that, and pretty much everybody in Korea and Japan said otherwise as well. So.
Oh, really? What?
Yeah, it went Devil Jin Heihachi Kazuya.
Interesting. I always thought that most people considered Kazuya because of his punishment, and and that was the one thing that I was going to mention when we were talking, or that episode. I remember like very vividly, like a lot of people put his punishment, like he was the Punisher, yada yada yada. And then you and I'm trying to remember who else.
Funny Kid.
Funny Kid. You guys were like, well, yes, he's really good, but it's like a lot of paper stuff. It's like, okay, it's excellent on paper, but once you actually start playing matches, then you notice that it's a little different.
Yeah. So, well, he was still excellent at punishment. There's no getting around that. But when it came to certain things reaching the way it should, and Lars being able to get like forward back 2-1, whereas Kazuya's electric many times wouldn't reach for 14 frames. He would have to settle for like down forward 4-4 or something like that in lots of situations, or sometimes absolutely nothing. You could say he's the best Punisher at the time, but it was there was always room for debate. But at the same time, I mean, anybody who said he wasn't good at punishing or one of the best absolutely didn't know what they were talking about. So he was actually really, really good at punishing, but the best is, controversial.
Yeah.
What made him, weakness, one of his main weaknesses in Tekken 6 was one, his movement was pretty horrid. He was one of the like smallest backdashers and one of the worst sidesteppers. And at the same time, he was actually very easy to get around. He didn't move well, and you could move well against him. So that made it pretty difficult to play him at a high level. It made him pretty difficult to play him at a mid level. But I mean, it could still be done, as a few different players showed. Reinhardt did pretty well with him, but once he got up into pretty high level competition, he got beat up on by like Bob players, Jack players. But not to take anything away from him because he's really good, but like. You didn't hear of anybody really showcasing what he could do because there's not a whole lot he could do with it unless you were perfect player. There was one that stands out named Choksai that played in Tekken Crash, and they did exceptionally well. And he was an exceptional player, but once he got up and played against some of the higher level guys with the top tier characters, he got blown up. But the team did exceptionally well. So.
Well, I guess just generally speaking, to kind of turn the conversation towards Tag 2, rather than being a mid-level character, now all of the Mishimas are tops. Well, most of them.
Absolutely.
So here's the question, the big question to you, which I've asked on the other characters that we've done as well. What's changed? Like what has changed so much from T6 to now that he's now considered? I mean, some people, well, I think if I remember correctly, like the consensus is Devil, which is part of him, but Devil's better than he is, but they're both right there at the top. So like, why do some people, why is he there? Well, I mean, what have been the main changes?
All right. Well, more so than any of his move changes, because his move changes aren't really very heavy. You won't look at his move list and see that he's changed much at all. He got a new move to help him against his weak side, which was his right side. So in Tekken 6, you could step around him a lot to your left. But now he has back 4-1, which is a really great tool at 15 frames to keep people from trying to walk left. And back 4 by itself does 20 damage, and back 4-1, if you commit to it, does 49, and it knocks down and it wall splats. And it wall splats from a huge distance, and it wall splats somewhat of an angle such that it can hit walls that it really shouldn't. So that is a huge addition to his move list that keeps people from walking the way that they normally did to get around Kazuya on his offense. But outside, I sort of rambled there from what I was saying. But what I really meant to say before I forgot about that move was more so than move changes to his move list. What really changes why he's really good in this game is system-wide changes, not just character changes. And that movement is such improved in this game that a lot of what hindered him in Tekken 6 is now a non-issue, because like backdashes for the characters that were really bad at it seem to get improved mostly across the board. Backdashes for characters that were exceptionally good at it in Tekken 6 were, nerfed to at least mid-tier for most characters like Lily. Well, Lily was really good at sidestepping, but her backdash was taken down quite a bit. But anyways, talk to Kane about that one. I'm sure he'd bitch all day.
Yeah.
But anyways, system-wide changes. Kazuya's backdash got improved immensely. I remember when we had that podcast, I was saying that you could take everything that he was given new, fresh in Tekken 6, and take it all the way and I wouldn't care as long as you gave me a backdash that allowed me to actually use movement the way Mishimas are supposed to be able to. And that is probably his biggest improvement in this game. He can move all day long. He can sidestep at least, with an average size sidestep. There's not going to be a lot. I mean, the average character in this game can. If there's a move that the average character in this game can sidestep, he can too. He can't sidestep certain things that like the crazy sidestepping characters can, but he can sidestep stuff again. He can backdash stuff again, and also the system change that besides backdashes getting buffed, the fact that moving forward now realigns you so well with a sidewalking character, that makes things like the Wind God just absolutely stupid in this game. People will say that Mishimas are broken, and many times it might seem like they are, but the biggest thing, the reason that people will say they're broken, they'll talk about the Wind God being great, but what's actually making the Wind God so awesome is the fact that the forward dash or crouch dash realigns you so very well with a moving character that it makes a crouch dashing Mishima or any other crouch dashing character very hard to get away from. So those movement changes are what make Kazuya really, really, really good in this game, regardless of if you're in standard form or devil form.
Gotcha. So, interesting. And I have heard since this game first came out that a lot of people they like the movement. I mean, a lot of people like to compare it, I guess, to. I mean, some people compare it to DR or whatever, but I don't know. It's that different or.
I think it's a good balance between the standstill and push buttons fest of Tekken 6 and the skating on ice that was Tekken 5 DR.
Skating on ice. That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, if you just watch that game and watch people, backdash and crouch dash at each other all day long, it looks like they're just sliding. You don't even have to notice their feet moving half the time. The characters are just drifting across the screen.
Gotcha. Oh man, it's been a long time since I played that game. But okay, well anyway, I noticed a lot of people do like the movement in this game, and they think that it's leagues above T6.
Absolutely.
And has helped out a lot of characters, and like you just gave a summary of a little bit, looks like he's benefited a lot from that movement update.
Absolutely.
So I guess the question is, kind of the logical progression with the discussion. If the movement and the sort of system changes with that have sort of cleared up all of those problems that he had in T6, before we start getting into like the specifics of how good is his good stuff, right. where are his weaknesses now? Are they the same, just not as pronounced, or how does what does he have to really worry about when you're?
That's probably the best way to go about saying it, is that the weaknesses are still the same, but not as pronounced. They're the same in that his weak side from Tekken 6 and every Tekken before this every tournament level Tekken before this was his right side, aka you could sidestep left and get around, a good 4/5 of his moves. But if you use movement now to make your attacks track. So if you're really good at moving, that becomes almost a non-issue. Therefore, it's much less pronounced. His weakness is much less pronounced. It's going to sound like I really don't know the character, but at the same time, it's so difficult to find a true weakness in this character. Other than you could say that what limits him from being maybe as well-rounded as like Devil Jin is that he doesn't have quite as much range on certain things, but like Devil Jin can move forward, run in your face and dash and push like forward 2 with like really excellent range, safe knockdown. So that I'm just using that as an example with another Mishima, but his ranged attacks don't really have a lot of range on them, but it's definitely acceptable range. Other than that, it's so hard to find a weakness with this character. He's not. I guess he's sort of weak in the damaging, sort of safe poking department. So like he has pokes for like he has decent pokes for like down forward. Excuse me, for 13 frames, 14 frames. He doesn't really have like a great 12 frame mid poke if you want to find anything wrong, but who needs a 12 frame mid poke? Though he does have a 12 frame mid move. So I mean, it's really difficult to find any problems with this character. He has great keep out with electrics. He has great ways to stop you from sidestepping now. And his problems with range can be easily solved with moving correctly. Okay, I'm not going to say it's easily solved. You have to be a good player and be able to move correctly and be able to have good mind games and good reading to be able to move correctly so that your moves will do what you need them to do. However, a good player should be able to overcome that. So it's so difficult to find any weaknesses with this character. And putting him in devil form makes it even better.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm glad that you said that because that was going to be my next question. Because, a lot of people differentiate, obviously, between the two. And, I mean, you do have to pick Kazuya to get to devil, of course. But right. A lot of people put, devil above Kazuya. So let me ask that since, devil is for all intents and purposes, he's brand new to this game over at least for T6 in the past couple of games. So
Tekken 5, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess kind of talk about that a little bit. First of all, why is he better? If Kazuya himself doesn't have a whole lot of weaknesses, how is Devil even better? And then I guess you can just kind of go from there. Like, who do you prefer and why, and sort of walk us through that.
Okay, well, he can actually be better or worse depending on the matchup. Though, it's going to depend on how you play him and what you want to accomplish with him. Obviously, the only huge thing worth mentioning is the addition of Twin Pistons, down forward 1-2, which is it does 28 damage on its own. It's taggable. It's 15 frame mid launcher. The first hit tracks to his strong side, which is his left, and the second hit tracks to his right, which is his weak side. And that in itself is absolutely crazy because the range on the second hit is absurd. The range on the first hit, I mean, can be absurd for a mid launcher. The down forward 1, he already has down forward 1, down forward 1-2, down forward 1-4 out of his regular form, but down forward 1-2 is an instant bound launcher, so you don't get great damage off of it, though it can be used and is +1 on block. And down forward 1-4 has such weak follow-ups that it's really difficult to make that worth possibly getting launch punished for because it doesn't jail and the second hit is high. However, transforming to devil mode gives you 15 frame mid launcher, the first hit that tracks one way, the second hit that tracks the other, and the opponent basically has to stand there and wait to see if you're going to do the second one because I mean, you can't really risk trying to interrupt it in case it whiffs because by the time you've seen it, the second one's already coming out. You basically have to plan for the first one to whiff and then beat him out of the second one, and that's 9 times out of 10 just not going to happen. So, I mean, I already mentioned that it's taggable, so if you're walking around a character and you get sort of an angle where Kazuya might have a weak juggle because of it, you can tag in whatever character, and if they're, decent at angled juggles, angled axis juggles, then, he gets right out, and the other character comes in and makes up the sore combo he may have had. So that in itself is crazy. It's not as good as Tekken Tag 1 Devil Twin Pistons, but I mean it was really stupid good then. But at the same time, you didn't have things like walls where you could take 70% of somebody's life for hitting it. you could do, twin pistons 4 or something like that and get a good like 30 to 35% or something like that. But I mean, in this game where damage is so huge, and, you can do 70% of somebody's life off of, a launcher that you essentially can't walk and can't interrupt. So, and the mind games off of it are crazy because down forward 1 in Tekken 6 was 16 frames. In this game, it's now 15 frames. So that lets him, just down forward 1, 2, anything that's minus 15 that somebody threw out. And so you don't have to risk doing an electric and missing it. I mean, you shouldn't be missing it, but this is just mindless. You just do it. You don't get as strong of a combo off an electric, but again, with a tag assault, you're going to get ridiculous damage anyway. So, the only drawback to that is it loses a couple of moves. The main one for me being Ford 2, his a new move that he got, and oh, by the way, I'm talking a lot. Did you want to add anything?
Oh, no. I'm actually, every time that you talk, I take notes, and then it gives me more opportunity to ask questions later. So.
Okay. All right. No problem. What I was saying is Ford 2, I believe, is probably the best addition to his move list. Well, okay, I take that back. Back 4 is his best addition to his move list, but Ford 2 is a very close second. It's a huge long range punish. It can punish moves like Heihachi's Ford 2, Paul's Demo Man, or Death Fist from every range that you block it. Comes out if you buffer the first forward. It can come out in 14 frames. Excuse me, if you buffer it on block after a blocked move, it could come out in 14 frames. If you do it in the open, it's 16 frames. If you do it with perfect execution. And it's just a palm that knocks down, does 37 damage, it wall splats, and but you lose that if you go into devil mode. He gets a move that looks much like his Tekken Tag 1, Ford 2, does 27, it's mid, knocks down. It's still a pretty decent move, but it doesn't come out nearly as quickly as regular Kazuya's Ford 2. So when I mentioned that it can be good and bad to go into devil form, depending on how you look at it. The only way that it could ever really truly be bad is that if you're playing against maybe Heihachi or Paul. I think Paul is one of the better ways to look at it, because being able to punish Demo Man and Death Fist from every single range without having to risk like missing a dash electric on a Death Fist is crazy good for Kazuya. But at the same time, you're giving up being able to do like a twin piston or something like that. So, I would against a character like Paul, I would rather stay in regular Kazuya form, unless the other person is just obviously not using Demo Man or Death Fist, which means they pretty much already lost anyway. So I'll just go into Devil form to make it easier. So.
Now, I did want to ask real quick. Whenever I look at a tier list, I often see people splitting the two characters, Kazuya and Devil, which is somewhat weird to me, because you have to pick Kazuya to get the Devil, and you don't necessarily have to use him. So I guess I want to ask, first of all, do you differentiate between the two? Not that saying that you're a tier list person, but if you were,
I got you.
If you were to make a tier list, would you split them up?
I don't know that doing that they're really worth splitting up. However, I guess you can say it really does make somewhat of a difference, because personally, and people are free to argue with this, and they will. I think as far as Mishimas go, they're all in the top 5, in my personal opinion. But I personally think that Devil Jin is the best. He's the most well-rounded and versatile one, and then Heihachi, and then Kazuya, for different reasons. But I believe as soon as you go into Devil form, he goes better than Heihachi, and probably, if you had to put it on a 1 to 10 factor, being Devil Jin being the best, Devil Kaz would probably be like 9.5, 9.6, something right there. He's just barely beneath Devil Jin once you put him in devil form. And he might even be even depending on the matchup or the kind of person that you're playing against. Simply because of the intimidation factor of having twin pistons, the fact that it tracks so well, and the fact that, he didn't have a good 15 frame mid launcher before he went into devil mode, but he does now. So it takes one of his weaknesses away. So yeah, just I don't know that I would put him in a different spot on the tier list, but I think it does knock him up a notch, just a little bit better than Heihachi, and still not quite as good as Devil Jin, but just exceptionally good character.
See, and the reason that I asked that is because, just the way that you just described it, you have DJ, Heihachi, and then Kazuya, and then, maybe it moves around a little bit once you start talking about Devil. But I feel like he should be higher than those guys just for the simple fact that, hey, I got this pocket extra character that I can come out with it. I don't care. What do you got? Oh, no, yeah, you just had the standard move list, but whenever I want to, I can do this guy.
It's not like it gives you another life bar or anything.
No, no, I get that. But like all these, benefits to having him if you need him, sort of deal.
Well, again, you're giving him a 15 frame mid launcher, and Devil Jin already has that in Can Kicks, and it's. Again, like I was saying, you can use it to track to his weak side, but Devil Jin already has things that track to his weak side. He doesn't have, I don't think he has a mid launcher, but that tracks to his weak side that easily without doing something like a sidestep 2, which is god awful on block. But it's hard to say that is better than Devil Jin, because Devil Jin is just so well-rounded. His movement is, I believe, a little bit better than Kazuya's. His forward pressure is leagues beyond Kazuya's. I take it back, not leagues beyond. It's at least a step above Kazuya's, and he's still got Electric. Electric is the scariest move in the game, more than likely the best move in the game. So he's a better poker than Kazuya. He's on offense safer than Kazuya. His punishment is almost on par with Kazuya's. It's going to depend on the type of player that you are, the type of person you're playing against, whether you personally feel that Devil Kazuya is better than Devil Jin. I think that he's better than Heihachi. He's scarier than Heihachi. As scary as Heihachi is, you can't deny the fact that Twin Pistons is a stupid move. Heihachi has Twin Pistons as well. Well, not Twin Pistons. It's, down forward 1-2. Everybody just calls it Twin Pistons. But as stupid as that move is, I think this move is just as stupid if used correctly. So. Okay, I think it makes him better than Heihachi, but not quite as good as Devil Jin. It's going to depend on who you're playing and how you're playing him.
Gotcha. So, yeah, and obviously, we're just talking semantics here, so it's not like, oh, my God, he's going to be a huge, piece of shit if you don't do it this way or whatever. But
right. No, he's good.
So,
he's good.
But that does, kind of lead me into another question, and that's, probably the biggest thing in this game, and that's your partner. Who you pick for your partner. Now, you said that you believe that Devil Jin is a little bit more well-rounded than the others, but I know that you typically play Kazuya Heihachi. So, is there a specific reason for that, or you just like him more than?
I've never liked Devil Jin personally. I play him, a moderate amount in casuals, just so I can know what to look out for, know how to get around some of his things. And I give other people practice with him because, playing one Mishima, you can pick up another one pretty easily. I started picking up Devil Jin in Tekken 6 because, another local player, Devil Reborn, told me I should probably play him because I, was naturally pretty good with Mishimas, and Devil Jin was, considerably better than better than Heihachi, but I was maining Kazuya at the time. It's considerably better than Kazuya. So I started playing him quite a bit, in Tekken 6, and I don't really play him a lot now, but it's just because I've never really gotten in the groove with him. I think to me, he's had everything, I guess you could say, and when a character sort of has everything, it takes away some of the originality that you can do with that character. And so, and there's something about Kazuya. It might be like I've always said, it's like his personality. He's got that badass personality, and I love setting up Oki and knocking people down, and that's just what Kazuya does. Devil Jin likes to hit you a lot and leave you standing and leave himself at plus frame so he can mix you up. But with Kazuya, I just want to knock you down and apply wake up games and pressure on you, or knock you down and run away. And Devil Jin is pretty good at that, but it's just not his style as much as it is Kazuya's.
Gotcha.
Well, you're talking about partners too. Well, and Heihachi is a knockdown character as well. So I think for Heihachi fits me a little bit more than Devil Jin does. He doesn't quite fit me as well as Kazuya does, but you take one of the other when you just want to play Mishimas.
So in that regard, then, like, I take it going into this game, you were gonna play Mishimas for both characters, right? You never really faltered on that.
Oh no, when I originally, in tournaments in Tekken 6, I played a lot of Lars. That was because a lot of people told me that I was good with Lars. There were a lot of other phonies that were around, and they said you need to play Lars to show these frauds how to play Lars, and he was too good in that game. So I played him quite a bit in tournaments. So when I first saw the Tekken Tag 2 stuff, my two mains in tournament at the time were Kazuya and Lars, and I never really liked Heihachi at all for the longest time. But then the same guy that told me to play Devil Jin told me to play Heihachi, and I started playing Heihachi, and he was pretty boring, but he was more fun than Devil Jin. Just to me, and so and he's changed pretty drastically in this game as well, and he's a lot more fun than he was in 6. Not just because he's borderline broken, but he's just more fun because of movement and the way they changed his moveset.
Gotcha.
So I was going to play Kazuya Lars, but I still play that team a little bit, but man, Lars is a boring character.
Oh my God, so much.
He's so boring. In tournament, I pulled him out a little bit here and there, but I find that in Tekken, at least for me, if I'm not playing a character that I'm having fun with while I'm playing them, even in tournament, I'll run up to somebody and do something absolutely stupid and retarded, and I'll get punished for it, and then I smack myself and ask, why did I do that? Because I had the match in the bag. You just don't focus unless you're playing a character that you're having fun with. So I can't really go back to playing Lars very much in tournaments. If it's a match that I know if I'm playing Lars I'll win, then I'll probably do it. But otherwise, it's probably just going to be Mishimas.
Gotcha. That's I'm actually curious about that. Are there, because you'd think, I mean, the tag system can always go one way or the other, but you'd think if you play two Mishimas, which are widely considered, the best characters in the game, that there wouldn't be any matchups. You'd always have whatever matchup you need taken care of. Are there matchups where Heihachi or even Kazuya, I guess, wouldn't be as good as having both of them on your team, and that you would actually want to switch one of them out for Lars or someone else?
I guess I don't want to give away my weaknesses when our final round is coming up in 4 days.
Are you okay? So, I guess with that, before you go into it, when you said that, did you mean like you personally like matchups that you're not comfortable with?
No. I just don't want to make it even worse. When is this podcast going up?
I can do it right the night before, so everyone has to listen to
it. The night before? What a dick. Do it. Okay, anyways, some things, let's see. I guess I can just save my own skin a little bit and go back to talking about his weaknesses, the reasons that I would swap him out based on his weaknesses.
Yeah, rather than specific examples.
Yeah, I'm not going to say what I suck against,
no,
but other people might not have that issue. But If you want to talk about his weaknesses and reasons that he might be swapped out for other characters, one being his reach. Some certain characters can outreach him, and I don't even have to say who without you knowing. I mean, you can know who has long reach in the game. Bob has long reach. Jacks have long reach. Bears have long reach, though you've got a plenty to use against the Bears. Let's see. That's really pretty much like a lot of characters that are really wacky and just weird, like like the animals, like Roger and Alex, because Kazuya's moves up close, he are not always that fast. They're not always well, not they're fast enough, but they're not really fast pokes. A lot of his moves don't have really meaty vertical hitboxes. He's prone to getting mid crush sometimes, which is an absolute atrocity to be in this game. I don't think the words mid crush should be any game. But and I don't reading some threads or whatever, people say mid crush isn't even a real term. There's no such thing. But I mean shit goes under mids all the time.
Yeah.
It's stupid. And certain moves of Kazuya's are very prone to getting mid crush. Moves that you absolutely want to use unless you don't know what you're doing with Kazuya. Like characters that are really wacky, like the animals, can get under his mids. Capos can get under his mids.
I was actually just gonna suggest Capos because I know they do that. There's a lot of characters they do that too, where they're not technically crushing, but they're just going so low.
They're certainly low enough that they get around certain moves, but at the same time, that one reason why it's really hard to really even say that is a weakness, is that Kazuya's back two will hit Capos out of relax transitions or in relax. It'll pick up. It's 14 frames. His back two is 14 frames, and it'll pick up Capos out of relax transitions. So if they do one wall rising 1-3 or back 3-3 or full crouch down forward 4, back 2-4, as long as you do it as early as you can, will pick up for a combo. Just don't be stupid enough to use a tag assault and give them free rage when they have a full life bar like an idiot. So he gets an exceptional punish compared to others for like picking up Capos with back 2-4. But at the same time, you have to limit your move list so heavily against characters that are really, really, really weird, like really small, like greasy characters, people like to call them, that just slide out of a lot of the stuff that he does. The small hitbox characters are that Kazuya. Let's see. I was saying that he sometimes has range issues, and the characters that are really small, the ones that have great backdashes, make him work exceptionally hard to be able to get in. So you could replace him just to make it easier on yourself, but there's no reason to really replace him as far as not being good enough to handle the situation. But if you want to make it even easier, you could swap to somebody like Lars.
So yeah, I figured that was probably going to be the thing, is like it's all relative. Like even though you could do this to make it a little easier on yourself, it doesn't mean he can't take care of it.
No, absolutely not. He can handle himself in any situation in this game as long as you've done your homework on how to accomplish it. And as long as you've got your execution up to par. One big thing that will make him exceptionally good is if you're able to, punish with an electric for minus 14. I mean, you could mention minus 13 with the fastest wind god in the game, but if you're going to do that, then you shouldn't even play another character. Just play Kazuya and just play solo.
Solo, yeah.
Yeah, but. So you could then be able to electric every hop kick and everything that's minus 13 in the game now. But being able to electric for minus 14, say like Jack's down forward 2 or Jack's 4-4 1+2, that keeps Jax from being able to do like 2 of their bread and butter moves. So if you can be that scary with him, then that immediately takes away the need to go to somebody like Lars or somebody else with another hefty 14 frame Punisher or something like that. So Yeah, if you can be exceptionally good with things like that, you'll find no need to swap him out.
Gotcha. So I'm actually going to do kind of pause for a little bit. I don't know what the hell happened with Dan, because he hasn't gotten back to me, and he said that he's only gonna be a few minutes late at most. So sorry everyone out there if you were expecting Jana to be on with us. However, with that, I actually mentioned a while ago that I would be willing to accept any intermediate players out there that wanted to get onto the podcast and kind of ask questions of our guest and whatnot, and kind of talk to it like, oh my god, teach me this character, here's all my questions. So with that, rather than Dan, I actually do have somebody that I can bring on here to ask some questions. So I think we're going to give that a try and see how it works. So our guest this time, rather than Jana Kazama, because who knows where he went AWOL. So we got our intermediate player here on. It's Sahil from India. And he's hopefully got some awesome questions for us for Kazuya to help spice things up a little bit, put Cody on his toes. So I guess let's.
I am so awake right now.
So awake.
And I've actually seen this guy, and thanks for coming on. I've seen this guy around the Kazuya forums for a long time. I think he's actually given me some really nice comments before, so I would like to welcome him as well. And thanks for coming on, man.
So yeah, and I guess ask whatever questions you'd like, Sahil. We've kind of went over a little bit. You're coming in the middle here of the conversation, but that's okay because some of the questions that you sent me, I don't think we've really discussed about. So I know the first thing that you asked or that you were going to ask had to do with your game plan. And like when you start up a match and like how to deal with matchups and stuff like that. So I guess you just kind of go from there. What sort of questions did you have about that?
All right. So my first question would be, if I'm approaching a new opponent, let's say somebody I've not played before.
Okay.
Then how do I feel out my opponent? Because it's happened to me a lot of times that I play somebody in a tournament, and I get my ass handed to me, and then I do them, I completely body them in a death match later on. So
okay. That is a problem that is a problem that you are going to unfortunately have with Kazuya for a very long time. Every Kazuya player still has it, though it's much easier in this game because his damage output is so high. But one thing to do, the most important thing that you have to do, and this probably goes without saying, is to watch your opponent's habits. You, more than anything, focus on how they move and how they react to every little thing that you do. Scott will know the guy that I'm talking about. He taught me a lot about watching the little things that people do. I already knew that you're supposed to watch the little things that people do, but I didn't know to what extent the really good players in Korea do it. Young Jae, that was in Indiana for a while. I went to Indiana and spent a weekend with him, and he told me some things that I didn't even know that the top players really do. For one, in Korea, they will watch the number of times people backdash before they push a button. They will watch the number of times people backdash before they sidestep. They will watch the number of times people backdash before they forward dash. Watching every single pattern that people could possibly make and use that to your advantage. So you're going to have to be, as good as Kazuya is, you still have to be a better player than the other person to really use him well. So the way to really feel out somebody is to do lots of movement yourself before you ever push a single button, and watch every little pattern that they might have. If they run in your face and push buttons, then you should be able to get the feeling for at what distance they want to run in so that you can use an electric. If they stand back and just backdash, then you should test, how many crouch dashes or how many how many crouch dashes to put into your wave dash before you reach a distance that they want to push button to keep you out. If you're at range 2 or range 3 and you can use a single crouch dash to move forward before they want to do something like push a button to keep you out, then you know that you can use no crouch dashes or one crouch dash and put an electric to hit the tip of whatever move they're going to do before they do it. So you can use really should be using your own movement and the other person's movement to sort of figure out how they want to play. Now, certain moves that you could use to see how they react would be just simple things like 1-1-1, back 2, back. So there's a built-in thing about back 2 is that you can see if people really know Kazuya, you can see if they flinch duck after back 2 to duck back 2-4, and if they know that, then they know Kazuya. So your matchup just got a lot harder. But if they don't duck,
I hear you.
Yeah, if they don't duck the 4 on back 2-4, then that's like a really good test to see if they know Kazuya inside and out. If they don't know Kazuya inside and out, then that's good for you. You can also watch their movement and see if they're sidestepping left, if they're sidewalking left, to see if they really know Kazuya. If they're not doing that, then the game just got really easy for you because you have 50-50 mix-ups with hell sweeps, forward 4, forward 3. So, I just said all of that just to come back to the point that you really just have to watch how the other person reacts to everything that you do. And that in itself should be enough to feel out an opponent with a character that's as good as Kazuya.
Well, that's some great advice right there. I did not know that you had to watch for backdashes, the number of backdashes. I'm going to be doing some counting now on.
Yeah, it's not just the number. It's I knew that that people watch the spacing. Obviously, the spacing is everything, and what you're really doing is trying to learn somebody's spacing and how they like to move. And obviously, you do that by forward dashing and back dashing, but you only watch count or really watch the number of backdashes to see somebody's patterns, because patterns are there. Regardless of how good you are, the pattern is going to be there. Even if it's a pattern that's like a false pattern to try to get you to think that they have a pattern. That's how deep this freaking game can go. It's really obnoxious when you try to play a character like a Mishima that's based on reading and punishing patterns, and somebody is bullshitting you on purpose to screw you up. So you don't have to necessarily count the number of backdashes, but that is a method that certain people use because everybody has some patterns here and there, and if you can see something that's as simple yet complicated as seeing a number of backdashes that the other person does before doing, say, an electric with a Mishima, or backdashing twice before they push back 1 with Steve to try to keep you out. Then you can watch, say, like somebody do one backdash, immediately duck, and see that they're going to do another backdash into a back 1 or something like that, and just wait for it. So counting is not that important. It's watching spacing, but counting can be a great way to read patterns.
All right. That's some great advice right there. Scott, do you want to take over from here? I'll just listen in.
Oh, sure, yeah. And then if you have any questions or if you have anything else, definitely feel free to interrupt or cut in there. I did want to ask kind of along those lines. I know we discussed this a little bit when we did the T6 episode about how do you start playing a Mishima, kind of what sorts of things to do and look for. Now we've mentioned spacing, movement a lot so far. So I don't want to have one of those deja vu moments, but kind of obviously you have to keep up on that. So what sorts of things do you do, Cody, to kind of stay on top of that and make sure that that your movement is where it's supposed to be?
Okay. Well, I would say actively practice it while you're playing in a match. If you find yourself getting lazy with the Mishima, even in casuals, then you need to stop playing them and immediately swap to another character, at least in casuals, because if you get lazy playing Mishimas in casuals, it will show in your tournament play. You can't play these characters at a casual level lazily and then immediately expect to turn it on when it comes to tournament. It just does not work. So if you're going to play these characters casually, make sure that in casuals you are, practicing your, keeping your backdash on top, keeping your, wave dashing, to whatever speed you like to wave dash at. If you like to wave dash really quickly, then damn it, when you're playing, if you like to wave dash really quickly in tournament to intimidate people, then that better be what you're doing when you're in casuals. And if you find that it's getting slower, then that's what you need to go work on. That being said, I don't want to really sidetrack the question there, but a lot of people ask me, how do you, like, they'll see my wave dash, especially from like 1P. Well, I wave dash faster on 2P, but a lot of people don't find it easy to wave dash from 1P on stick, and they'll see mine and they, immediately, ask me how do I wave dash that quickly from 1P, and I'll tell them, I'll tell them my method, but then also always tack on the fact that, you really don't need to wave dash that quickly. You just need to be able to cover ground and use some of its high crushing frames to really get in there. But anyways, so we're talking about practicing. What do I do to keep up on practice? Just when you're in, like I was saying, when you're in casuals, make sure that you're actively thinking about the things that you're doing and actively playing the characters. If you're playing like everybody in the game and then expecting to pull out Mishimas at tournament, it's not going to happen. You're going to lose. So let's see, what else are you practicing? Make sure that since now the electric has a retarded hitbox on it, make sure that you're visually keeping up with where the hitbox on that move is, because it's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. So, and it's your best move, it's your best keep out move. Always practice the spacing on electrics. Always practice your punishment. If you have time to practice punishment, go do it. There's too many characters in this game, and Kazuya is only exceptionally good when he can punish every single one of them. And there's too many to know. But whenever you have time, go and practice punishment against a character that you don't know. What else is there? Movement and punishment are what Kazuya revolves around. So I don't know what else you really do to stay up on top of him. You can try to come up with some new technology if you want to call it that. Combos aren't really that hard unless if you can play Kazuya, you can do his combos. So,
well, I guess elaborate on that a little bit, because obviously now we have the tag system, so combos are going to change a little bit. But right. Most of what I see with Mishimas is electric tag, and then if you have another Mishima, electric tag again to get the first character back in, and then just kind of go from there. And then if you want to, you can modify it a little bit to do tag assault and whatnot. But I did want to ask. When it comes to like electrics and combos out of that, electric itself just does a lot of damage. Does tag assaulting, I know for some characters it's a huge difference. Like if you don't tag assault, you're missing out on 20, 30, who knows, maybe even more damage. But with Mishimas, I know that they hit hard by themselves as well. So are you usually looking for red life combos or tag assaults or maybe some combination, or how do you approach that?
That in itself is a difficult thing to really answer, because it depends on the situation. At the beginning of a round, if I immediately hit somebody with an electric, if that's the first thing that I've done and it's not going to push them into rage, then I typically avoid doing a tag assault combo, because let's see, I think you can do electric, back 2-4, down back 2, hell sweep 1 does 84. So Kazuya, as long as you're decent with, as long as you're actually pretty good with electrics and good with your execution, without walls, Kazuya's staple does 84, which is a lot for a character by himself. So if you were to obviously tag assault on top of that, you can push that same combo with, say, like with Ahachi, you can push that combo to 99, which is a lot, but at the same time you've given somebody rage and a free out for 15 damage. And 15 damage, you get that from tagging somebody with, you get 13 for hitting somebody with a down forward 4, or you get 16 for hitting somebody with a back 2. So I know these numbers because I'm sitting here and like looking at them right now while I'm playing the game. I don't know I know my frames. I don't know my damage that well, but not to the point. But so I mean, if you can do like a electric back 2-4 combo, then you've done 84 damage, and you can pick up the slack by hitting somebody by tagging them with a back 2 or a down back 4. You've instantly got the damage that you would have gotten with a tag assault. And unless you're pushing them to the wall, then that can change damn near everything. And Kazuya's his typical combo ender is crouch dash 3, which is huge damage and is an enormous wall carry, and you're going to get great damage after that. So again, it's going to depend on the situation. If you're going to put them in rage and you're not going to give up a lot of red life if you think you need it, then go ahead and tag assault. If at the same time, sometimes I don't want to give up Kazuya's potential to get rage. So like if the other character is going to hit me, I don't want it to reset my rage counter, then I won't do it. But most times, Mishimas all hate each other. They have really low tag synergy. So a lot of times you shouldn't really take that into account because it's going to take 120 something points before they ever get rage, or 100, maybe even like 130, 140. I don't remember the number, but they have to take a lot before they get rage unless somebody else does a tag assault. So you have to weigh all of these things whenever you're going to do it. Other people would say it does so much damn damage, then tag assault every single time. Well, no, that's a completely different school of thought, and people can do that if they want. Just it goes for your style of play. If you just want to do brute force and take over half-life with every combo, then you're free to do that. But you're also giving them free outs whenever you do that.
It's funny that you mentioned that because you spoke about Young Jay earlier, and I know that that's his school of thought where he feels like whatever, if I'm going to hit you so hard, and tag assault and get that extra damage, 2 juggles in your tag.
Well, he was also playing Devil Jin Hayachi, and they do if you do the right combo with Devil Jin Hayachi, then you push 110 damage with every single combo. So.
Well, okay. Well, let me ask this.
If I
sure, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'd like to just chip in, on the back of what Cody said. That if I hit somebody with an electric, at the start of the round, then I'm immediately thinking, will I get them to the wall? And if I'm going to get them to the wall even after the end of the tag assault, then I do the tag assault. Because with Kazuya or Devil Jin, who's my second character, even if they do get rage, their options become really limited at the wall.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you can just sidestep.
Go ahead.
So that's another thing to, I think, just keep in mind, that if you're going to get them to the wall and going to get that juicy damage at the end of the wall, then you just go for the tag assault, go for that insane damage that Kazuya dishes out, and then just see whether they're going to tag assault, and if they are, then just sidestep and launch them from behind.
I agree. I actually agree 100%. It's just one more thing you really have to keep in mind. One thing that I like to do on stages that aren't the largest stages with walls. If I prefer Heihachi's wall game much more to Kazuya's for obvious reasons, like the idiotic down forward 1-2 that Heihachi has. So it's all about how you want to play the game at the wall. If you want to not give them rage so that they can't tag out, that they can't tag assault at the wall, tag crash at the wall, then you can go back game. You can also take as much damage as you want and then wall splat them once and kill them. So I actually like to change it up here and there. I will sometimes immediately tag assault and take them to the wall and then make them guess or lose all the red life. But also, if you do that, one thing that you do is you give them tag crash, and a lot of Kazuya's combos, he ends it such that he doesn't recover quickly. So if the other person tag crashes, it puts your back to the wall. So that's one thing you really have to keep in mind. So one thing, and you can also sort of bait that. So you bait the tag crash so that they don't do it. So there's all these different things to keep in mind. That's why what I was saying is it's going to depend on the situation and what you're doing, whether or not you immediately tag assault or not. So I would say mix it up. Just mix it up.
All right, just mix it up then. Well, I guess that kind of ties in with what we were talking about earlier, where you need to know the matchups, hit the lap, know what does what characters are gonna put you in that weird position, and just make sure that you. I guess also just look at your wall options and make sure you know what does what in what situation.
Right.
So I guess that's another question that I was going to ask. So some characters are, you mentioned Lars earlier. Some characters are just mindless and they just do whatever. And Kazuya.
A bad Lars is mindless.
Yeah, what's that?
A bad Lars is mindless, like most American Lars.
Bad Lars is mindless. Okay, fair enough. So do you think that any character falls into that category where you can pretty much just be mindless with them and just do that? Or because my question I was going to ask is Kazuya seems like he's one of those characters more than most that you have to have a lot of knowledge when you play with him, and then I was gonna use Lars as an example where you don't necessarily need a lot of knowledge to be really good with him, or decent, whatever you want to define it as. But
right,
like
mid-level Larses are everybody. Everybody is a mid-level Lars.
So, are there any top-level Larses out there? Can you think of any?
In America, no.
No. Well,
I think Devil Reborn here in Florida is an exceptional Lars. He doesn't stay in practice enough to really take it to the next level, and a lot of times he gets stubborn and plays very spiteful and doesn't stick to the basics, doesn't stick to spacing and punishment. I'm not really trying to shit on him, but those are the things that Lars can really excel at, and if you take the way that he plays and add really solid fundamentals on top of it, then Devil Reborn would be an exceptional Lars that everybody should be afraid of all the time. But he, again, doesn't play that much anymore, doesn't practice a lot, doesn't brush up on his fundamentals when he should. But
well, I guess
yeah, I think he would be really good. I actually beat him most of the time now, but yeah, that's simply because he doesn't practice as much as I do.
So with that though, just kind of on that topic, do you think you're going to have to practice with whatever character? That's, if you're going to stay on top of your game, that's just how it has to be. But some characters, right, you have to put in more time than others. Now, where do you put Kazuya on that far end of the spectrum where you need to put tons and tons and tons of time, and you need to always have that knowledge, and you need to constantly be researching? Or do you think that I don't know, I don't want to say lackadaisical, but if you kind of take that, you just put in a lot of time, you don't necessarily do a lot of research. There's obviously a lot of different ways you can approach a character, but how, right, where do you put him on that spectrum? Do you think it's something where, if you don't have the time to dedicate hours and hours into studying, situations or whatever it may be, that your potential with him is going to be pretty ass, or can you make do with that?
You could get, if you're talking about an American major, if you're on a really good day, assuming a 128 man Tekken tournament in America, a big major, but not something quite as big as Final Round or Evo, you could break at best maybe 3 wins, 2 losses, maybe. You might go 3-2 if you don't know knowledge with Kazuya. You could Mishima basics in general in this game, because their damage is so strong, can take you pretty far as long as you know to use things like where to use for every time you punish something, you either use 1-1-2 instead of like back 1-2, 2-2, down 4-4-4, anything like that. You either use 1-1-2 where you're supposed to, use electrics where you're supposed to, use twin pistons where you're supposed to. As long as you do, those few basic punishers where you're supposed to, forgetting all of the other mid ground where you're giving up some damage, then you can do pretty well. I think in America, with as easy as this game is with getting damage, I think you're going to have to be an exceptional Mishima player within the coming, year at least, while everybody is really learning this game inside and out, to be able to break even like top 16 in majors. I just don't think it's going to be possible without good practice in this game.
Gotcha. So, and I guess that's, kind of the point that I'm driving at with Kazuya, because there's some characters where it seems like as long as you can dedicate a decent amount of time to it, and you may be reading up a little bit, that you can do fairly well, and just, kind of pick up whatever you're missing, by playing. Whereas there's other characters, and it kind of feels like Kazuya falls into this category where you have to constantly be, looking at stuff, and when you see a situation, you have A, B, C, D, and E options, whereas other characters, maybe just A and B. I mean, you just kind of have to feel it out. Now, is that the case? Do you think? Because I guess, kind of from a starting player's perspective, is it really worth it? If you're not putting in tons and tons and tons of time, can you still see the results from it, or what would your opinion on that be?
I would have said in Tekken 6, no. In Tekken Tag 2, again, because the damage is so high and anybody can make a mistake at any time, yeah, I think that, it's kind of hard to phrase.
Because, obviously, everyone who's listening to this, not everyone is going out to tournaments trying to place, top 16 or top 8 or whatever it is. But they still want to go, and they still want to have fun with the character, and they still want to feel like they're not just getting bodied, all the time.
No, I completely understand. What you should, if you focus on the basics, and Tekken basics are much harder than most other games' basics. If you focus on things like always watching spacing, always getting at least some punishment, being smart about when you do and don't give somebody rage, you can do fairly well with him. Especially if you go into double mode and use twin pistons. That's that stupid of a move sometimes. And I will admit I'm not as good with it as I should be because I haven't practiced it enough. So yeah, I think you can do fairly well with him without, putting in a ton of time. But there are other characters in this game. This game, Tekken 6, was nothing but offense. Defense was incredibly hard in that game. This game, it's almost exactly the same. Defense is still incredibly hard, but it's rewarded more. But this is still it can be a very, very, very offensive game, especially in America. And Kazuya is not an offensive character unless you have a great read on your opponent, or unless they really don't know how to defend against him. If they know how to defend against Mishimas, which are some of the most studied characters in the game, then you're going to have a hard time if you don't really, really, really study. But if you focus on your basics, then you can at least make a respectable showing at a tournament, or at least get to that point where you're saying, I lost, but it was a really close match. I'll examine what I did to lose, and I won't let it happen next time. So that you definitely can, but it's more difficult than most characters.
So
you can't run in swinging.
So I'd like to.
Go ahead, Sai.
Yeah. So I'd like to just say that I just like to add to that in Tekken 6, you had a lot of characters, but still, if you put in the hours with Kazuya and you had enough people to play with, you could still get fairly good with him. In this game, it's the number of characters has just gone up by such a large amount that by the time that you find enough people to play all those characters and get good against them, there's going to be a new game out. So, I think the best way to go about him is just study up.
Yeah, I would say, and I've sold this to a lot of people, and I feel, a little bad for people who this is their first real Tekken that they've tried to play, because there's so many characters, and I know if people who want to pick up Mishimas now, I would say, if you don't have any legacy knowledge with those characters, and your execution is not top notch, then to hell with them being top tier. You're going to have a heck of a hard time, simply because there are so many characters in the game to learn against, and he is a punishment and movement based character. If you don't have those two things down, you may as well just play him on the side while you're getting better with other characters.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because I understand why they added so many characters. It's Tekken Tag 2. You got to have every character that's ever been even thought of.
Communities.
Yeah. So, and each person gets 2 characters, so the chances that they're all going to get used go up. But man, I have to say I hate that. Like, we need to get rid of some of these characters. Oh my God.
And then you had to add 2 of so many characters. What the hell? What the hell? I hate that so much, because everybody, not everybody. I'm not gonna take that back, because obviously there's a lot of people who like solo mode. Solo mode, if you want to use that for practice, that's perfectly fine. If you're an up-and-comer and, you're playing with your friends, you only know one character, then, you want to practice with that one character and become good with them. And nobody should, shit on anybody for using solo mode and casuals. You can learn to be really good and focus on your red life combos if you have a red life killing team. But in tournament, the clone team is exactly the same as a solo team to me, because you're tagging out and basically doing the exact same combo you would have done with the point character. It looks so stupid. It looks so lazy, but at the same time, it allows people to really focus on what their strengths are. Like, Cora plays double bobs, and he is exceptional with bob. He is an awesome bob player. Crow now mains double bobs, and he's exceptional. I was actually in Houston this past weekend and went to Crow's house. Cora played double bobs. Crow played double bobs. Rich plays double bobs, and Neo X plays double bobs. And I played all of them that night. And while I will keep my opinions on who's better or worse, because that's not what we're here to talk about, the clones can be really, really good in this game, and it kind of pisses me off because it feels so lazy. And people can say that Mishimas are basically clones of each other, and while that could be true to some extent, you can't use any of their moves other than, say, electric and 1-1-2. Past that, none of their moves really overlap. You can't play any 2 Mishimas with the same game plan in mind unless all you're going to do is electric.
And I feel like that's why they added so many clone characters. I think that was their like subtle way of allowing players to play solo while not actually playing solo. I kind of think like they felt like they knew they were going to get some backlash from solo and it wasn't going to get tournament time. So they're like, okay, well, we'll just give you so many clone characters.
There was also this tweet by Harada that said in the first stages of like beta for Tekken Tag 2, we had the, just like Marvel 2, after you unlocked, certain things or whatever, you could pick 2 of the same character, and they said people absolutely hated it and it was boring. But, now once the game's out, you can play clone characters on console, and, people are obviously picking up on it. So I don't know what the hell happened there. It might just be America being lazy.
I would actually much prefer that. I would prefer half the cast and be able to just pick the same character twice than to have all these clone characters. But
yeah, well,
it is what it is, Again.
I just think that Harada asked somebody, who should we put in this game, and they said, well, put in everybody in their mother, man. It's getting back to, and he just took it literally.
When it comes to clone characters, what I've always asked the same thing. I was known to be pretty decent with Lars in Tekken 6. What if they put Togo in here and I had 2 Larses? Togo was his friend in Tekken 6 solo mode, not solo mode, campaign mode. And what if he played exactly like Lars? Everybody and their mom would bitch about two Larses.
They already bitch about two Bobs.
Two characters, up forward threes and up forward fours. Like if up forward three was taggable, right? And you did up forward three tag, and then his friend came in and did up forward three to launch you even higher and tagged out. Everybody'd be like, "Fuck this game." But it's okay for other characters, I guess. I don't know. I don't understand.
It's weird. It is what it is. You just kind of gotta roll with.
You roll with it. It doesn't really. Like I said, it pisses me off. That's actually a really overstatement because it's really not that big of a deal. But it does get boring playing those teams because one thing about tag is that it's not just the fact that you are playing two characters. Is that any given time the other person can swap and you have to play against a completely different character on the fly. That's part of the excitement about tag. Is that at any given time you have to know like basically 4 matchups, which is great, but oh well.
I was actually I was going to ask your opinion about that a little bit because there's so many characters in this game, and I know as a Kazuya player, we've already talked about it a bunch. You have to have a lot of that knowledge. Now I'm one of those players where I like a good balance, a good balance between like fundamentals and a good balance between knowledge. And like Soul Calibur, I'm not going to say I enjoy the game, but I don't really enjoy playing the new one just because there's some mechanics that I'm not really I don't jive with. Let's say that.
I'm right there with you, buddy. I was a Soul Calibur 2 Taki player, and so imagine what they've done to that character over the years. The game is no longer really fun to me either.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the game, like objectively speaking, it is a well-rounded game. It's a balanced game. It's just whether or not you like what it's doing. But like I liked what they did with it, where it is knowledge based. You have to have a lot of knowledge with the game, but they actually lowered the cast. Like at least for playable. Like there's 4 Edge Masters or whatever it is, but for like the actual playable characters, it's actually relatively speaking to past games, it's smaller. They're like kind of dwindling it down a little bit. So you still have this this factor of knowledge. Whether do you know what this character can and cannot do, but at the same time, it's a heavy focus on fundamentals. And I feel like with Tag 2, like unless you're playing a character who kind of warrants it, such as Kazuya, I feel like it's kind of going like the actual fundamentals are going the wayside. It's just whether do you know your big damage shit? Can you kind of feel them out, and are you good? Like, are your reads good? Or if they're good, there you go. There's your 80% combo. But
are your hop kicks good?
Yeah, that as well.
Yeah, and I'll be one of the first to say that hop kicks really shouldn't be complained about like they are, but at the same time, they're so many characters have them that if you get good at using them, you pick up another character with a hop kick, and you immediately have a very good with Punisher. You immediately have a good low crush. You have a somewhat I don't want to use the word mindless because that's honestly not what I'm trying to say. You have a good, basically at any given time you have a threat that makes the other person really know how to fight around it. So if you have a character with a really good hop kick, then you have basically a built-in option select of a launcher that you don't really have to go learn how to use another character's similar move that might not have it. So,
and that's really my only big beef with the Tekken series is that the way that they've kind of handled crushes and like that change with the system. Because back in Tag 1, like you had some busted shit. I mean, it wasn't balanced at all. You have to acknowledge that. But like in certain moves, like hop kick, it wasn't as annoying, but just because it wasn't as, I guess I'll use this word again, it wasn't as pronounced. You had low jabs. It's kind of like Virtua Fighter. Everything, low jab stopped everything. That was your key go-to move. But you can't do that anymore.
That gets boring after a while.
But you can't do that anymore. Well, I don't know. I really like Virtua Fighter, so I can't say that.
No, I'm referring to crouch jabs. Crouch jabs in Tekken, they're good, but man, they get boring after a while.
And that was one of the main reasons that they switched it up and they like completely revamped, Tekken 4. They brought in a new team, all this other stuff, because people were getting kind of tired of watching people backdash all day and then low jab. So that's that's what the game was. And a lot of people liked it, but I get it. It's not exactly the most.
Even in Tekken 6, low jab I think was too good because it gave +6, I believe. I might be wrong on that, but it stopped a lot of stuff in Tekken 6, and especially with Lars. Lars having a really good crouch jab that gave him stupid frame advantage, made it, and a down forward one that went under jabs, and the probably best jabs in the game because they were +7 and tracked both ways, or maybe +6, something like that. Stupid frame advantage, and then if you're going to try to fight back instead of sidestep, he could just duck one, and just that just beat your jab, and he's back at frame advantage. So I like the fact that crouch jabs are not nearly as good as they were, but the way that they've gone about sort of making them even less pronounced than in Tekken 6 is that so many moves that aren't even like jumping moves seem to just brush right through them now. And it kind of ticks me off because it takes the game away from being logical. There's nothing logical about say, Heihachi's forward 2 potentially going under a crouch jab. There's nothing logical about Paul's quarter circle back 1+2 going under a crouch jab. There's nothing logical about moves that don't make any sense going under crouch jabs. Nothing should go under a crouch jab. Something that being jumped over it maybe. I think they should be completely linear, and you should be able to jump over them. You should be able to sidestep them. But going under a crouch jab doesn't make any damn sense to me, especially by a move that doesn't even crouch. So, and that happens left and right. I mean, you won't notice it until you go to crouch jab somebody and you just got launched by a move that is just progressing forward while the player is standing.
Yeah, that's actually really my biggest pet peeve with this game. Like, I like watching it, but for some reason, at least compared to T6, it's a lot less fun to play for me because I feel like that's just one example. But for some reason, there's a lot of stuff that happens in this game that I just don't understand. Like you'll be in the middle of something, and even if if somebody makes a good read or something, all right, my hat's off to you. You saw me coming and you bodied me for it. But like there's other things where I'm like, okay, got you in this situation. I know exactly what you're going to do. I'm going to do this to counter it. And then blah, just nothing, like something completely opposite happens. And I'm like, oh my God, I get it.
It had to be knowledge-based instead of, if you were going to beat what they did, had to be knowledge-based instead of having good fundamental intuitive knowledge. What I really like about fighting games is that if you have good fundamental intuitive knowledge, then you can look at what a move does and sort of predict what its properties are going to be, whether it'll jump over something, go under something, or whatever. You can sort of look at it and based on the animation of the character draw a pretty decent conclusion that what you should do against it next time. And Tag 2, that's sort of up in the air because mid crushing, what the hell is that? Unless you're Ling and you're going into AOP, but she can't block there. So it's sort of a trade-off. But in other cases of other moves, like I was in Houston this weekend. I was playing against all the Bobs, and I did Heihachi's down forward one time. It lost to Bob's Hadoken, his crouch dash 1+2. It lost to that. He just was crouching underneath it or crouching away from it, though we were point blank, and it's a moving forward move. He got away from it. I also did 1+2, which are Heihachi's palms, and that went through him, and I got smashed into a wall for it when he was point blank. So you can't intuitively figure out a lot of stuff about this game. I think it's too knowledge based with the amount of characters that you have. That being said, it's still really fun. So.
Yeah, and of all the bitching that we're doing, I should say that.
Yeah, I just like to add the bottom line. Yeah, sorry about that. So I just like to add the bottom line here. Unless they give Kazuya players a hop kick or something as retarded as Lars is up forward 3, we're gonna shit on all other characters in every podcast. That's the bottom line.
Right. No, but listen to this though. I do not really shit on the characters. It's just the fact that you have to know so much in this game. It makes it very difficult for players who are of really high skill fundamentally and don't really have a lot of time to know everything. I'm not putting myself on a pedestal and saying that. There are other people that I would definitely say that about. and you have to know far more to be good with some characters than others.
And I should say that real quick, not to cut you off, but like this game, it still allows you. I mean, if you're good enough at your fundamentals, I mean, there are some players that are just so good that it doesn't matter. They don't need to know anything because they know you. Like they just met you 10 seconds ago and they know exactly what you're thinking. And the reason that I mention that is because if you take an example, you look at Slips. Like I know that he's played, a decent amount and yada yada yada. But I mean, he has work, and I know that he's. I think he's helping out with Injustice, or he has been helping out with that because he's big into the MK scene. So like he's got a job, all this other stuff. So he doesn't play nearly as much as like say a Korean does. Yet he gives those guys fits. Like he's just so good at predicting and with his fundamentals, and he plays characters that can't even punish. So it's not like he's sitting there putting time into the punishment.
Well, they don't have to.
Yeah, exactly. But like he's,
he plays characters, and this is not a knock on Slips at all. He's an awesome player, but he plays characters that don't make you have to learn certain things about the game. You don't have to sidestep with capos, one, because they don't have it, but they make up for it in Relax. And in going into Relax, they immediately make you guess 50-50. So, his lack of knowledge in certain things, simply because he doesn't have time to do it, gets made up for by the characters that he plays. And that's not a knock on Slips, because he's one of the best capo players in the world. But he does what he does, and he does it very well.
Yeah, well, the only reason that I mentioned it is just because not everything has to be knowledge based. I do agree with you. It bugs me a little bit at times, just because there's so.
But if you're going to play, since we haven't talked about Kazuya for a while now, but just back to Kazuya. If you play Kazuya, you should know what you're signing up for. You're signing up for homework, and you're signing up for execution practice. That's what you're signing up for. And if you're down with that, if you have the time to put into it, and then Kazuya's going to be a great character for you. If you don't, you will not get the mileage out of him that you might get out of from another character.
So with that, actually, thank you for bringing us back around. Because I was gonna say that I think we've had a pretty well-rounded discussion of him so far, and obviously with any character in this game or any character in any fighting game period, you could sit for hours and hours and just do specifics. But I think that we've done for the most part enough with Kazuya. He's you mentioned it. He's a movement and punishment character, which I think is something that you should take away from this. And so with that, I don't really have a whole lot of other questions as far as it pertains to Kazuya, so I'll throw it at both you and Sahil if you guys have like questions, or if you have anything else that you want to mention about character or Kazuya. By all means.
Well, as I've probably shown a few times tonight, I am quite the rambling man tonight. So if you don't give me something specific, I am going to talk, and it will become completely inconsequential. And yeah, so I'm already doing it now. So if I know you just said give it to me, but if Sahil, if you have more questions, or if there's any other topics when it pertains to Kazuya, please just bring them up.
All right. So another question I had was down forward 4. Do you think that's a decent keep out move, keep out panic thing? Because it leaves you, if it gets blocked, it leaves you at I think -9, and unless you're hit confirming it, in which case you get 35 damage and a hell of a lot of plus frames. But do you actually use it ever, or you just stick with while standing 4?
Down forward 4, I use it for its range. You can use it for keep out if you'd like. You should use it as keep out only if the other person loves to duck you a lot, because it becomes very annoying. I would not use it on offense. Do not use it on offense, because on block, as you said, it's -9, and your offense is absolutely over if they block it. So don't use it on offense. Use it on defense, like you said. It's an all right keep out move. However, keep in mind that whenever you're doing down forward 4, that you could, if it landed, then you could have landed like a down forward 2 and potentially a counter hit. So you weigh if the other person punishes well. If they don't punish well, then there's no reason that you should be doing down forward 4 instead of down forward 2. So yeah, you can use it on keep out. I would not use it on offense though. If you're going to do a mid move with that kind of intent on just to keep somebody from ducking, I would use while standing 4 all day long because you can make it track by doing a crouch dash.
And another one. Have you seen Nee play Kazuya?
Yeah, I've watched him a little bit at least.
Yeah. So that dude just does two things in the game. Okay, it's either crouch dash or electric. Okay, it's a crouch dash into a sidestep and then an electric. It's a crouch dash into a back dash and then an electric. And it works, man. He's got an awesome player. I think he just got promoted to True Tekken God or something like that.
Right. There's a lot of knowledge about who he's playing that goes into how he plays. One thing about Korea is that the scene is so tight-knit that everybody knows everybody. Nee plays all the time. I mean, I can't quote the number of hours that he plays, but if you go by the sheer number of videos of him playing like 4 or 5 hour long sets, then you can obviously just know that he probably puts in 4 to 5 hours at least every 2 days, constantly, all the time, probably every single day, because he wants to stay on top of what he's doing. But I say that to say that he knows how everybody in his scene plays all the time. And here's a good way to compare that. When he came to America and played Devil Jin at MLG, he did well against a few different people. He beat Fighting GM in winners bracket, but when he played Fighting GM in losers finals, he had to swap off a Devil Jin because he was losing. Because GM adapted. Well, in Korea, he knows everybody inside and out. So, he can use just his movement, just a couple of pokes here and there, and electric to get people scared. Also, in Korea, they respect movement, they respect spacing. Their whole game plan is spacing and mind games based on spacing. In Japan, they push a lot more buttons, and in America, all we do is push buttons. So, this is not me saying that Nee couldn't come over here and play the same way based on who he's playing, but I don't think that he would be able to beat certain people, say maybe Anakin or maybe Core, using just movement and just electrics like he does in Korea. And that's not knocking any of the other Korean players. It's just a different mindset. Maybe if they committed to using moves more often that are going to throw him off from what he's doing, he might play a little bit differently. But at the same time, they're respecting Kazuya's entire move list so much that they end up losing to just electrics all the time. So does that really answer your question?
Yeah, that answers it perfectly. And another thing, forward 3, I've kind of stopped using that since Tag 2 came out because I don't feel the need for it. I mean, are there any specific situations where forward?
I like to use forward 3. This is a way to I guess this is probably another good go back to one of the questions that you asked about feeling out somebody. I like to use forward 3 to see how committed people are to running in on me. I like to use forward 3 against people who like to run in and duck because they feel that they're figuring out my wind guide keep out timing. I also like to use it against people who like to think that they know how to move forward and wave dash, especially certain characters, without really good reach, and especially characters that can't punish me for it because it's -13, but a lot of people don't have the reach for it. A lot of people like to run forward and duck, thinking that I'm going to throw an electric, but I might be out of range of doing anything else. If I have a really good read on where they're going to be, and I know they're going to duck, then I'll forward 3 them. Or if I know that even though they may have a punisher for it, that they're not on point enough to punish it, I'll use forward 3 just to keep them away, so I don't have to work hard and do things like electrics. So it's going to depend on your opponent, as is everything with Kazuya. One way that you can use it is if at the tip of its distance, if people like to move around a lot, but you can sort of see that their movement is sort of jittery. I especially noticed this from pad players and bad Japanese stick players. And there's a difference. Reason I mentioned the Japanese sticks, as aside from Korean sticks are typically smoother and don't have as jittery of movement. But with bad pad players and bad Japanese stick players, they have really jittery movement when they're trying to backdash or sidestep. So you can forward 3 them all day long while they're just jittering, because they're just not blocking. They're trying to put too much movement where they don't know how to do it. So if you see somebody at distance that you can't electric them for it, but they're having jittery movement, you can test them with forward 3 all day.
All right. So yeah, I guess one thing I wanted to add to this was another aspect of his wall game that I sort of recently discovered, which was back 4-1. So now if you just do back 4, people start to twitch a bit or they start to throw out jabs. But if they're not on point with trying to punish it, then what happens is that you're at just enough range that another back 4-1 is going to wall splat them.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's
a really good point.
That's a hell of a lot. All right, another thing I wanted to ask you.
I think you're right. Did we lose?
Yep, I'm just listening.
Scott, are you still there? Okay, you're so quiet.
I'm just listening.
Right. So another thing was I wanted to ask was if you have a wall break opportunity, what's your typical go-to combo, assuming that you can't carry him to any other wall? After breaking.
That's actually sort of difficult with Kazuya. And before I go to that, I will say that his combos without wall break are typically much better. But if you're going to end your combo with like down forward 3-2-1, okay, well, this is going to be specific to the situation. If you have done a bound already and you're ending with down forward 3-2-1, and the down forward 3-2-1 is what wall breaks, then you could do something like a Thunder God crouch dash 1. You could spike them with forward 4, which will keep them very close for wake up, which I think is probably one of your best options. Just use forward 4 or down back 2. You could even use full crouch down forward 3+4, which leaves you in crouch, and it's not a great wake up game, but it's something to use once every now and then. Or if you're really quick, you could do a crouch dash 3 for probably your max damage, one single hit. If you have not used your bound and you wall break, then you can carry them towards another wall with jabs, and then bound, and then tag assault, and then do crouch dash 3 to carry them towards another wall. It's going to depend on where the other wall nearby is. You might want to, if you have a wall to your side, you might want to sidestep and carry them to the other wall with something like down forward 1-4 or an electric. Yeah, so it's going to depend on where the other wall is. Like you said, you're assuming you're not going to get to another wall, but you can always carry them towards the other wall.
Yeah, so I guess those are my questions and my humble input for this podcast.
We definitely
All right,
appreciate
great.
it. Well,
Thanks, man.
With that, I really don't have much more to add or ask about Kazuya. So I guess real quick before we go into the the final little segments of the episode, were there any last comments that you had about Kazuya? Any I don't know, maybe impressions or anything that you want people to have about him in Tag 2 that maybe we haven't talked about or anything?
Well, I mean,
aside from your rambling.
I don't know what else as far as just general things about him that we could really talk about. I mean, on some podcasts, not necessarily this one, but I mean, you could go through things like what are the punishers for specific frames, but all that kind of stuff. But it's all across the board on Tekken Zaibatsu, avoiding the puddle, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I figure with specifics like that, we can kind of just gloss over it. Not only because
I
numbers
agree.
stuff.
I 100% 100% agree. I 100% agree.
Yeah, and I think you went over it on the TE6 podcast anyway. I think most of it.
Yeah, and it hasn't really changed other than like 442 being added and back 41 being added. So not a whole lot has changed. There's still the. I'm trying to find a really good use for his new down. A sweep on counter hit, but it's also launch punishable. But you can also cancel it. So.
Which I'm sorry, you cut out a little bit there. Which move?
Down 1+2.
Down.
It's his spinning low punch that hits you in the feet and on counter hit sweeps for a combo. But it's launch punishable. But you can also cancel it by holding back during the animation. But at the same time, if somebody notices you're canceling it, then they're just gonna counter hit you as soon as they see you wind up for it. So there's I'm trying to find some use for that, but otherwise his move list hasn't really changed a whole lot. He tracks better, his movement's better. He's damn near perfect character as long as you know how to play him.
Excellent. So, well, with that, that's all I got for Kazuya and whatnot. So I go into my final segment, the one that I love so much, and that's the soapbox. I mean, we've already kind of bitched a little bit anyway, but yeah, I'm gonna make you do it again. But of course, it's an open soapbox. You don't have to talk about Tekken. Don't even have to talk about video games. But I definitely want something that makes you mad. And you were in Houston just this weekend, so there's got to be something.
Oh, man. What? Are you trying to put, core on boss or something?
No. I'm just saying, every time somebody goes on a trip, it's never perfect. Even if you love the trip, there's always something that sticks out. Oh, man, I can't believe that dickhead just did that. Ruined my whole vacation.
But no, it was actually a pretty good trip. Aside from... people.
See, you just started. Aside from.
Damn it. Yeah, people putting words in my mouth. There you go. That'll piss me off. One thing that I just brought up on. You're still here, right? I know Saul's gone.
Is he?
Or is he gone?
Oh, did he? Oh, he cut off. I didn't know that. Oh, well. That's
been replaced by an ad on my.
Yeah, no, he. I guess. Yeah, he took off.
Nissan Leaf now.
Yeah, well, okay. I figured he'd stay through till the last little bit. Well, to everyone listening, thank you, or shout outs to Sahil for coming on and chatting with us for a little bit. I figured he'd want a little shout out segment, but I guess not. That's okay.
Maybe something with his internet. He's in a completely different part of the world.
Yeah,
so.
That's true. Well, it says he's still on.
He could have had to go. You never know. Anyways,
back to the soapbox stuff.
The thing that really makes me mad. It makes me mad that people didn't reply to it and put their money where their mouth is. But I'm sure a lot of people who are listening to this have, and I'm sure you did too. You saw where I posted up in Course Tekken Academy of people love to just spout off for no reason, without really having a whole lot of reason to say it, that American Mishima players are just absolute trash, and they have no reason in basing their there's no logic that they've based that opinion in, other than it's just so easy to look at Korean Mishimas and just say they're the best without realizing really why it is that they are as good as they are. And who they're playing has so much to do with how they play that they can make a judgment call based on fucking nothing. So, and I posted up in Course Tekken Academy saying that I was, at final round, this wasn't about me being proud or anything, or me getting butthurt by people saying that Mishima players, aren't any good in America. If I'm so bad, then you should have no problem beating me. Or Kane is a good Mishima player. He told me before I told him that I was going to come on here. He told me to tell everybody that he's trash with Mishimas and not a Mishima player because he's a Lily player. So Kane, just because you told me to, you're fucking garbage with Mishimas, and you need to stop playing them because you're not a Mishima player. I don't really agree with that, but I sort of said so. Fuck you, Kane. Get off Mishimas.
He's so down on himself.
Yeah, everybody sucks. But I was pissed that nobody stepped up to the plate and proved me right or wrong, because I want to know where the foundation of people saying this is coming from. And it wasn't, a lot of people assume that I was, say, talking about somebody like Blood Red or something. But he does talk a lot, but he actually tries to back up some of the things that he says with logical shit. He will say why he says certain things. Second scene will just say things like American Mishimas are trash. They're nothing compared to Korea, simply because they're dick riding somebody else who said it, or it's just a cool thing to say. And yet nobody has stepped up to the plate to beat me and take my money for it. So, or anybody else's. Kane said he was going to be there, and anybody who I didn't have time to play, he would play them. And nobody has said anything. And that's been up there for like 2 weeks now. So fuck all you guys. Everybody who says that, if you're not going to step up to the plate, fuck you. And then, that's it. That's it for me when it comes to me being pissed about the Tekken community.
See, for the American scene, I always thought that we had some exception. There's, no matter what you say, there's always some exception to the rule. But I always held that sort of opinion, mostly because, but like I have specific reasons for it, like because of the scenes in like Korea and then in Japan as well. I always felt like they were studying more than we were, and they were like putting more time and effort into it. So that's
true.
That's the only like if I were to ever throw something like that out, which I have in the past, like that's the only reason I would say it. I just think that most of the players, at least Mishima players in America, they're lazy. Like they just don't want to put the time.
You can say things like lazy all you want. That's perfectly fine, because America, in general, when it comes to Tekken, is incredibly lazy.
Oh yeah.
Because and warranted, the game is fucking hard. There's so much to know. Execution when it comes to playing characters like Mishima's is incredibly hard. I mean, people can say it's not hard, but when it comes to playing, at the top levels, it's incredibly hard. So I can take criticism to a point, and people can call me trash if they want. I just want them to come beat me if I'm so bad. So that's that. And again, another thing that I said is, like, if a player like Core, a player like Fab, a player like Fighting GM, people who I know are good at this game and have played enough other good players to really be able to assess why another player is lacking or what they could do a lot better without just pulling something completely out of their ass, then, and without being able to state specific examples as to why somebody is not playing as well as they could, then, you can say stuff like American Mishimas are trash, you can say I'm trash, I don't care, because you're basing it on something that is logical. But, when people just pull it out of their ass and don't say anything, and you're a terrible player on top of it, nobody wants to hear that. Especially if you're not going to put your money where your mouth is.
But, well, that's part of what makes them terrible, right? Is that they're going to spout stuff and then never back it up.
That's true. Yeah, every scene has the scrubs.
Yeah. So, with that, excellent rant, by the way. But Sahil, he actually disconnected. I think you might be able to see him there in the group chat, but it looks like he just got disconnected. So I'm going to see if I can add him back here real quick, see if he wants to join in on any last words or anything like that. Well, it doesn't look like he's on anymore, so never mind, everyone. I take it back.
All right.
So okay, excellent rant.
Thanks to him for coming, because I've seen him around the Kazuya forums. I don't check them as much anymore because there's not as many people in there that are actually trying to learn Kazuya. They, just the Tekken Zabatsu is not what it was. I wish it would have, huge, comeback, but I don't think it's going to happen because of Facebook. So I've seen him around Tekken Zabatsu a ton of times, and thanks for coming on, because it's a name that I've respected for a while, just because he asks legitimate questions and tries to help other people learn too. So really appreciate him coming on and asking questions to try to keep me on topic.
Yeah, and that's one thing. I know there's not many of them. It seems like he's in that category, and it looks like he's back on now. So we'll see if we can get him back on. But while we're doing that, shout outs to all the new players that are actually trying to learn. I see so many new players hop on, like, and just feel like they know everything. And I have to admit, I was kind of in that boat when I first got onto the forums. But if you're listening to this and you're a newer player, try to soak in as much as you can. Try to learn as much as you can. Players that are out there getting top 8, top 16, whatever it is at tournaments, they're doing that for a reason. They put the time in, and they're doing what they need to, and they have a lot of knowledge. So ask those questions, and save yourself some time, and try not to make yourself look like an idiot. So
yeah, I agree. There's a lot that goes into this game. Focus on your basics. And and one thing that I've noticed is when you try to overcomplicate the game, you do worse. So, and one thing that you do at a low level, new level, is if you are focusing on your basics, then they're the best thing that you got, and they're going to carry you really far. So never forget your basics. Don't overcomplicate the game, and if you don't have to. So what's one great thing about being new is if you're focusing on just the basics, because the basics in this game are so good, then it can carry you very far. And hopefully take my advice and don't lose that, because once you lose that and you start overcomplicating the game, you suck. Just start sucking so bad. Hit people low when they're not ducking, and hit them mid when they are ducking. Focus on that, and you'll go much further than complicating the game and trying to do the biggest combos and the best Oki setups and all that horse shit.
Cool. All right, so it looks like he's back on again. Let me see if I can get him back on here. Take just a second. He can give us any last words that he might have. Hey, Sahil, you there?
Yeah, I'm online.
Okay, cool. So glad we got you back on the call. Okay, so cool. We're right at the end here. So I'll first actually throw it over to you. If you had any shout outs, obviously you're in a different part of the world as we are, so you got a little different scene. So if there's anybody that you want to shout out or anything that you want to say real quick, I'll pass that over to you, and then I'll do the same for Cody.
All right. Thanks a lot, man. But, I really don't have a lot of shout outs to give out except to Lionheart, who's the player from India who's been traveling to all sorts of international tournaments. He's done the scene proud over here. So, shout outs to him. And, I do have a tiny little rant, and it's about the music in Tekken Tag 2, man. So I've used Tekken Tunes, okay? And a lot of music, there's a lot of music out there that goes with the whole feel of the game a lot better, To top it off, if you're not changing anything, just change the menu music to Joey Satriani, the summer song. Okay, it goes really, really well.
That's funny.
Okay, it goes really well. Okay.
Yeah, please. Yeah, change stuff like Brazil. That music is fucking terrible. Oh my god. I would say I like the majority of the music in this game, but maybe 5 or 6 stages. I wish that they would just take the stages off just because of the damn music. It's just so bad. And I heard Snoop Dogg was an awesome guy to hang out with for the guys who got to be in his video. Props to Snoop Dogg for doing his best, and props to Snoop Dogg for taking the money to promote this game. He's been playing it since the 80s. That's awesome. Even though it hasn't been out since the 80s. Good shit, Snoop. But the song fucking sucks. The song is terrible. The stage is awesome. The stage is superb. Just don't, put a different Snoop Dogg song on it, because that song is terrible.
That's hilarious. All right, well, if you don't have anything else, then Sahil, I guess we'll throw it over to you then, Cody. Any shout outs or whatever you have?
Let's see. I don't really do quote shout outs or whatever, but I would just say everybody in Florida, thanks for accepting me into the community when I came down. Everybody's been pretty helpful in helping keep the scene alive, especially with at the end of Tekken 6 I was happy with as many people as were still playing it. There are a lot of guys within like an hour of me that I wish would really take the game seriously, at least to the point of still having fun while playing it seriously. my local, really only local player, his name is Matt, goes by Booty Thrill, was just in IFL. I hope he keeps playing. Shouts to everybody in Tennessee, Lomajin, Shinblade, Trung, Geo, Fly Mike, Vandy, Codizi, all those guys. They help me. I don't want to try to sound like a celebrity or anything, but help me become a somewhat known player by teaching me fundamentals in the game and supporting me as I was getting better. All those guys, thanks. Shouts to Houston for playing a bunch of bobs because I needed bob practice.
I was actually going to ask you about that. What were you doing in Houston to begin with? Was there tournaments? I didn't think there was. But
I unfortunately, again, my only local competition now, except when maybe Devil Reborn comes out of hiding, is Booty Thrill, and he plays a limited number of characters. He's trying to branch out, which is awesome. He plays a limited number of characters, and he's only been playing for a little over a year. He's come really far for having played that long, but it can't compare to playing top-level competition, people that have been playing since Tekken 5 or even before that. So I had a free weekend. It was a 3-day weekend. I had very cheap plane tickets, and I went to Houston.
Nice, and played nothing but Bob. Way to branch out.
Very cheap tickets, by the way. I'm not the guy shelling out $1,000 to go play casuals. But yeah, it wasn't just Bob's. There were a few other players, and Core can play moderate level to somewhat high level with a few different other characters. Crow can play a few different other characters. NM3 or Enemy, however you pronounce it, was there. He plays Bruce and Bob. Let's see, NeoX was there. He played a few other side characters. Nobody as good as his Bob's. So it wasn't just Bob's, but and Rich played me a little bit with Brian and Devil Jin, and then immediately swapped to Bob's. So it wasn't just Bob's, but Houston is definitely the Bob capital. You got Fab up in New York. He's very good with Bob as well, but at least he puts a different character with him. So
that is true. Well, I guess if that's all that you got, then we can kind of bring the podcast to an end. And by the way, after your shout-outs, you didn't have to shout out anybody. Like, if I were to go onto a podcast, I would be the most ungrateful person ever. I would be like, no, I got here purely by my own accord. Everyone who I've ever met is terrible.
Everyone else is a dick. They suck.
I don't know why I would mention anybody, but so. But anyway, yeah, excellent shout outs. Shout outs to Houston, of course. I actually should probably do that at some point. That's one of the few states I haven't gone down and done anything, and I've never even been to the state of Texas aside from flying a little bit.
Here's a really weird shout out. At KIT, Anakin handed my ass to me because all I did was try to hell sweep him, and I have no idea why. I was in my brain telling myself, stop trying to hell sweep this man. All he's doing is ducking because he knows that I'm going to try to outthink him, and just keep hell sweeping because I'm stubborn. And I'm telling myself while I'm doing it, and all I did was get into a pattern and hell sweep, and he beat the shit out of me in this game. And now I have turned my game, in just the couple of months since KIT, my game has improved probably 100% because I am watching myself much more tightly, and I'm becoming more self-aware of my habits. So everybody who has beat my ass in the past, thanks for doing it because you've made me a lot better just by beating me. So, yep.
Nice. And yeah, that's just something to keep in mind that I won't say all, but most top players do. I mean, you look at GM, and that's one of the things that he's lauded for is the fact that he can adapt. So, he identifies his own problems so quickly.
GM actually, he came and stayed in Florida for maybe 2 to 3 months, maybe.
See, I thought he had moved there, and then all of a sudden he was back in New York. I was like, what?
It's not really my business to really know or tell, but for
somebody else to say, yeah, I get
right, yeah, but for whatever reason he was here, and I think we only played maybe a total of 3 or 4 times. Those sessions were actually pretty hardcore though, and at the end of one of them, he posted on Facebook that I was the best player he'd ever played in Tekken Tag 2.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's not me bragging. It's simply showing that, if a top player of that caliber, who has beaten some of the best players in the world, can post up in front of everybody that a American Mishima player is the best player he'd played thus far in Tekken Tag 2, then how much trash can we be?
Fair enough. One quick question that I was going to ask, kind of that went with your rant. Do you guys have enough people to play offline a bunch, or do you find yourself playing online a lot?
Absolutely not. I don't have almost anybody that I play on a regular basis.
Sorry, what's that, CEO?
The closest competition, the closest competition I've got is about an hour and a half, by road. An hour and a half drive.
My closest competition is luckily about 20 to 25 minutes away, and like I said, he's getting a lot better, but he's still not at that top level that it challenges me that I have to really focus really hard and use everything that I have. So and I play online somewhat. That's really only when somebody gets on Facebook and says, "Hey, let's play," or if I just happen to be home and I'm practicing something else, I'll turn PSN on just in case anybody else is online and I want some character matchup experience against their characters. That's always been my biggest weakness, has been character matchup knowledge. And one awesome thing is I kind of want to push it a little bit is IFL is going to be in its second season, and it's led up by Anakin. It's got a lot of exposure because Arturo Sanchez, thanks for him, did a lot of promoting for it along with Anakin. He streamed it. And was dedicated to doing it every Tuesday night, which is awesome. And IFL will be in its second season, and I will be playing in it, as well as most of the people that were in season 1 and a lot of new people, because Anakin held open qualifiers. If you were able to make it through qualifiers, you're good enough to be in IFL season 2. So I really hope people watch that and respond well to it. They responded exceptionally well to season 1. I think while I don't really like online play that much because it messes with the way that I play, and it makes a lot of stuff drop. You go into it understanding that it's an online tournament, it's going to have its issues, and you take it for what it is. It's an online tournament, but use it to build the scene and get people hyped for the scene, and I think it's a wonderful thing, and thanks for Anakin and Arturo and everybody else who was behind it making it happen. So yeah, everybody watch IFL season 2. Maybe I won't get my ass handed to me because there's lots of new blood, but hopefully hopefully I can do well enough to hopefully take it this time, because I got 4th last time. Bane ended up beating me in top 8. There was a huge problem with connection between us, but at the same time, like I said,
take it for what it is.
Take it for what it is, and it's not like he's a bad player or anything. Bane is a great player. And he didn't play badly. He did his thing regardless of what was happening connection-wise, and he beat me fair and square. So, anyways, I'm rambling my ass off again.
No, that's
IFL season 2. Let's go.
There you go. Well, with that, I am out of questions and all that good stuff. So, as always, I don't know exactly who or what character we'll be doing next time. But look out for it. Final round, obviously, shout outs, because that's coming up this weekend. And, of course, if it hasn't gotten close, I don't think it's quite close to Evo numbers yet, but it's still by far the second biggest tournament in the country. So you got to keep an eye on it.
They had Larry put a 512 cap on it, which means that I think at least 256 people have already signed up.
Yeah, so it's going to be super hype. Lots of competition there. The vast majority of the top players in the country are going to be there, and I know there's going to be some Koreans there. So it's going to be for real. It's going to be legit. It's going to be awesome.
Absolutely.
So if you can't make it out, and I'm still super salty that I won't be able to go, but if you can't make it out, it will be streamed, of course. So tune in and support that, because Larry, he's doing his thing, and he's doing it well. So with that, that's all I got. Thank you, Cody, for for coming on, and thank you, Sahil, for coming on as well. I don't know what the hell happened to John Kazama, but hopefully you didn't die.
All right, we have 3 people in on the conversation, then I think that's plenty.
Yeah, we got plenty of perspective, I think. So thank you guys again for coming on. Thank you everyone for listening, and as always, questions, comments, feel free to put those out there. And if you know anybody, I'm always open to having guests who are knowledgeable, but maybe don't get as much exposure as they usually would. And we have plenty of characters in this game to go over, so definitely throw out that if you have anybody. But with that, thank you everyone for listening, and we will catch you next time.